Next, describe the overview of the consulting process model. The following are the high-level stages involved in an HR consulting process model: planning to outsource, exploring strategic initiatives, analyzing costs or performance, selecting providers, negotiating terms, specifications of contract, transitioning process and resources, managing relationships. Let us look at each in detail. Planning to outsource. Prepare the HR. Develop and communicate a new HR strategy. Define new roles and responsibilities. Restructure HR. Hire new employees to fill skill gaps. Provide training for employees in new roles. Prepare the organization. Develop the HR strategy within an overall organizational strategy. Create and enforce an effective communication plan. Resolve an issue of whose payroll the various individuals are on. Consider whether all or some of the HR employees should be employees of the provider. Consider whether the head of HR should be an employee of the company or the provider. Exploring strategic initiatives. Assessment. Define the opportunities and benefits. Self-examination. Build the business case. Consider all the costs and impacts on the organization. SWOT of HR department. All functions that are not core competencies should be considered for HR outsourcing, and no HR function should be grayed out for outsourcing consideration. Organizational scan. Consider the driver behind the HR outsourcing decision. Analyzing costs or performance. Understand market trends and the competitive position. Identify goals and objectives. Determine an added value. Gather baseline HR costs and metrics. Compare current HR operations to benchmarks. Determine which processes have highest strategic importance and add the most value. Selecting providers. Providers can be identified and selected through referrals or networking, newspapers and magazines, internet, mailings, professional association lists. Negotiating terms. It is important to negotiate clearly the terms of the contract with the HR consultant. The negotiating terms should clearly articulate that if for any reason the contract negotiations should fail to produce mutually agreeable document within the specified time frame, you will move to runner-up vendor. The key points to be kept in mind during the negotiations are: good contracts make good partners, maintain heat of competition during negotiation, the negotiation terms should be reasonable and have clearly established expectations. The terms should include well-documented deliverables regarding every aspect of the deal. There should be the involvement of an attorney and legal binding in the terms. Specifications of the contract. The following are the key aspects of the specifications of the HR consulting contract: contract duration, parties to the contract, services performed, performance standards, hold harmless statement, fees, data security, communication review, contingency plans, audits, final contract review. Let us look at each in detail. Contract duration, the exact beginning and ending dates of the relationship, financial penalties for early termination. Parties to the contract. Allow for additions or deletions in case of acquisitions or divestitures. Require the vendor to name all the subcontractors and give the company the right of approval for those introduced later. Services performed. Specify all the functions to be provided. Outline all the support services. Ensure escalation process and dispute governance included. Performance standards. Tweak standard performance guarantees. Reinforce performance guarantees through at-risk fees. Hold harmless statement. A hold harmless statement will protect the consultant or vendor during a dispute. Such a statement helps in holding them unaccountable for anything short of gross negligence. It can be a deal breaker. If your company has its own hold harmless clause, disclose it in RFI or RFP to avoid later problems. Fees indicate level of billing detail and any reconciliation process you need to satisfy Treasury or internal audit. Negotiate general and administrative percentage and fees at risk for non-performance. Data security. Ask the IT to underwrite these provisions. Ensure that all the shared data is protected by proper non-disclosure agreement (NDA). Communication review. Stipulate that the company has the right to review communications sent directly to the internal employees before the communications are sent out. Define the process for reporting emergencies. Contingency plans. Anticipate disasters. Anticipate the impact of disasters upon the consultant's or the vendor's ability to provide service. Audits. Specify details of audits in the contract to avoid fees and misunderstandings later. Final contract review. After the HR has developed the contract, ensure that other departments review and sign off on their relevant sections. Transitioning process and resources. The transition process is a key element of the HR consulting business. Whenever a new project with a client is taken up, the HR consultant has to ensure a smooth transition to include the new resources in the HR department. Communication and project management plays an important role in facilitating a smooth transition. The following key points should be kept in mind to ensure a smooth transition. Plan to jointly review all the project plans, services, equipment, and staff who will be in transition. Ensure responsibilities for transfer are defined and confirmed in advance. Transition process should be transparent to the organization. An important factor to consider in the transition is the culture of the company. There should be a launch period between selection and implementation. Provide the new resources a time for learning in order to gain mutual understanding of the company and processes. Slowly turn over control to new resources as you transition resources. Measure results only after the transition process is over. Managing relationships. Outsourcing an important aspect, such as the HR-related responsibilities of your company, is a challenging task in its own way. Hence, it is important to find a good HR consultant who can partner with your company in the right way, and it is equally important to make sure that you manage the HR consultant effectively to ensure an effective and a smooth working relationship. Some of the key points to consider for managing an HR consultant are: establish performance targets and set expectations upfront. Determine priorities and communicate them to the consultant. Establish reporting protocols upfront. Provide forum and timing for discussion of issues. Anticipate and plan for conflict resolution. Arbitrate when it occurs. Ensure ongoing ownership, involvement, and supervision. Where continuity is critical, establish a long-term relationship with the consultants. Review annual operating plans and major initiatives. Provide guidance for provider and buyers, managers oversight. Plan for competitive bidding for outsourced service at regular intervals. Review contract terms and suggest changes as needed. Who manages a relationship with the HR consultant? A CFO, head of HR, other designated HR individuals, vendor management group, legal department, and the procurement department. HR consulting market. 58% of the companies outsource some HR function. 91% of the companies with $1 billion plus annual revenues are now considering HR outsourcing. HR outsourcing or the HR consulting business is growing annually at approximately 30%. In the next 5 years, global spending on HR outsourcing will double from $40 billion to $80 billion. there is an annual rise by 14% of the large firms that consider HR outsourcing.